welcome to Citizen Impact. I'm your host, Logan Martinez. We have a great show, or an important show tonight, dealing with Good Samaritan Hospital. There's been a lot going on. It doesn't seem like the whole national political theater is just one crazy thing after another. We continue to have an unemployment problem, regardless of what they say. Real unemployment in the United States is around 17 million unemployed and underemployed. We work with the National Jobs for All Coalition, and they do a monthly, every first Friday, the Labor Department comes out with the unemployment numbers, and you have the official rate of unemployment, which is like 4.1%, which is about 6 million people, but that's not the full picture. It's not the whole situation. The real unemployment is there's about 6 million people, about 5 million people that are what you call discouraged worker, who are no longer looking and therefore not counted in the statistics. You have people who are working extremely part-time and would like to have a full-time job, and there's about 5.2 million of those people. So about 17 million unemployed and underemployed people in the United States today. And when we talk about part-time workers, there's like 30 million people working part-time. And a lot of them don't make their ends meet. The other thing that's happening is, it looks like they're going to maybe bomb Syria, or they're going to negotiate with Korea. And these wars seem to be endless. We've been at war now for 16 years. This weekend and starting throughout April, there's going to be peace demonstrations and rallies throughout the United States calling for an end to these wars and to stop this militarism. And of course, there is a big movement to end the violence in American society. People have been gunned down. They had about 3,000 or 4,000 people downtown at the courthouse square calling for action to end the kind of violence that seems to plague our city and plague our country. But let's start with the Good Samaritan situation. Back in January, they dropped a bombshell on Dayton. Announced they were going to close one of the major hospitals in the city. It's been here, I think, since the 1910s, or even maybe before that. Don't know exactly when they opened it, but there's 1,600 people that work there, and it's going to be a big blow to the Dayton community. We're very happy to have with us the people that have been fighting this. Reverend David Greer, with the chair of the Northwest Priority Board. Thanks, Dave, for being here.
Thank you, sir.
N.J. Matthew Doctor with the SPAM Coalition, or the SPAM group fighting for single payer here in Ohio and in Dayton. Thanks, N.J.
Thanks for having me.
And Reverend Carter here, Dr. Carter. Appreciate you coming. You've been spearheading the committee here.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about your committee and how you're viewing how we're going to stop this from going forward?
Yes. First, I just want to thank you for having me. I'm humbled to be here and I'm amongst this great panel. As you know, the community knows, a bombshell was dropped on us in January with the announced closing of the Good Samaritan Hospital, an anchor institution on the west side of Dayton. Took a lot of us by surprise, and it raised the ire that we had simmering and boiling over the loss of businesses and opportunities on the west side of Dayton. What I knew was that not only was it not necessarily an economic decision, as Premier has announced, a financial decision, we looked at it as life and death. And so my brethren and sisters in the clergy community, we rallied together because our prophetic voices have to be heard. That means that we have to speak for those who are speechless. We have to advocate for those who are not able to defend themselves. And what we knew was that this closing would be life and death. that means that people would die from the closing. And so we just began to meet, and we had a prayer vigil at the Zion Baptist Church, well attended by the clergy community. The NAACP put on a town hall forum attended by the premier executives, where we had an opportunity to voice our displeasure. We still seemingly couldn't turn them around. And so we're continuing to fight. We're continuing to let our voices be heard. But we really need forums such as this, and we need opportunities to galvanize our community, because our community, which has been downtrodden for so long, they're almost hopeless. So they don't think that they can fight. They don't think that they can save the hospital from closing. And I just seem to think otherwise, and I'm so glad that Brother Greer is here, because he thinks the same way. And I just met Brother NJ today, and his group thinks the same way. So there are some groups out there that understand how important it is that the Good Samaritan Hospital remain open, viable, and functioning as the lifeline for a lot of people on the west side of Dayton. So we are continuing to keep up the good fight of faith.
Now, it's a big institution. We have some pictures, but it takes up like 5 or 6 city blocks, and has been expanded tremendously over the years. I've been there. I dislocated my shoulder, and I was in the emergency room there to have my shoulder fixed. Can we show the pictures of the hospital here? But there's 1,600 people that work there, and thousands of people that go through there.
Yes.
David, have you ever been a patient there?
I was born in Good Samaritan Hospital.
There
you go.
So yes, I've been a patient there. I've had outpatient procedures done there. You know, so yes, Good Samaritan Hospital has played a pivotal role in my health care over the years.
Well, it's right in the center of the Northwest Priority Board area.
That's absolutely correct.
And so you were born there. I won't ask you when, but unless you want to volunteer.
I have no problem with the grace of still being here after being born in 1954. So, in fact, April 28th will be my birthday.
Oh, a happy birthday coming up.
Thank you.
Well,
but
so you got a personal stake in saving this hospital. Tell us about, how you view it.
Well, to pretty much echo what Pastor Carter has already stated, you're talking about upwards of 33,000 residents in the Northwest Priority Board area alone, not to speak about the Northwest Corridor of individuals that are impacted by this closing. It's stated that 5 miles, like it's not that far away as far as time is concerned, but it is if an individual has an emergency and it's a life or death situation. Minutes matter, so here you have individuals who, even if they were going for a scheduled procedure, we have residents that do not have transportation, so they would at least be able to walk to Good Samaritan Hospital from their homes. Well, this will not be when they shut it down. That's a disadvantage that can create a whole lot of havoc in people's lives as far as their health care is concerned. So it's really a detriment, on top of what the residents of the West Side have been inundated with various closures, the food desert issue. There's just constantly things to create hopelessness on the west side of Dayton. And I'm not too naive to not know that it's by design. Mm-hmm. And it's not just in the city of Dayton, it's across this country.
That's right.
You know, all you have to do is look at the demographics and look at the retail and those service provisions that are no longer in those demographic areas. You know, so it's a design factor. You know, so that's why we have come to the forefront ever since we heard this to voice the opinion of dismay and rejection. You know, because we just can't stand by and continue to take it. We just can't take it no more because it just continues to inundate us with negativity, and that's not what God created our lives for.
Now Premier Health says they're doing this for financial reasons. Is that what they've said? Right?
They've said that.
Yes.
So it isn't a matter of like they're a nonprofit. And so the finances, if they said, okay, here's our books, they'll show it to you why they have to do it financially, and why does it not matter about the patients? What's the priority?
Exactly.
That's a good question.
No, and that's exactly one of the things that we're asking them to do, is to step up and show us those books, show us why this is so important that they can't keep such a needed hospital open. You know, I'm with, as you mentioned, Single Payer Action Network Ohio, and you know, these two gentlemen have already so eloquently put all of this stuff, but like this is, you know, we're pushing, we desperately need more health care in this country. We need to be able to take care of people whom we're not taking care of already. And, you know, as a physician, I see every day the disaster that is how we do health care in this country. And this step is just taking health care away from people. As the pastor already said, people are going to die because of this. And that's the black and white there, you know, like it's going to happen. And so, you know, yes, you know, I do think it's important that we see the books, but we also have to remember that this is also just a life and death decision, and it's not something that can be taken so lightly. We're talking about populations that are already on, you know, the outskirts of society because of how we formed our society and how we do things. You know, the infant mortality rate, the maternal mortality rate amongst African American population especially is really high in this country as a whole, but especially in the Miami Valley region. Yes. And to then take the only inpatient obstetrics hospital out of the northwest side of Dayton is only going to make things worse. Yeah. You know, you have to either go, we talked a little bit about this, you have to go all the way down to Miami Valley Hospital, which is a hospital that is overworked already, and to say that there's going to be room for all of these people is ridiculous. And then the next hospitals after that are even further away. You know, Grandview doesn't have obstetrics inpatient, and so it's just asking for people to suffer.
Yes. And we understand, you know, as Brother Greer said, it's not just Dayton. This is happening across the country where urban areas are being blighted, and resources and services are being moved to the suburbs. You can call it white flight if you want to, because I don't believe it's an economic or financial issue. I believe it's primarily based on race. Because in a disproportionate manner, African Americans and low-income people are going to be detrimentally impacted. So if you don't have any money to keep Good Sam open, how do you have the money to ramp up Good Sam North? How do you have the money to ramp up Miami Valley South? I don't know how you have the money to revamp and ramp up those particular institutions. Well,
they've poured money into all these places,
yes,
including Good Sam. I mean, yes. they've been, and the big question is, why would they put all that money in and then decide to do this?
Yes,
I think that's a really, and I mean, Good Sam itself, like they went and they closed down the Dayton Heart Hospital, they rebuilt the Heart Tower at Good Sam, and now they're just going to abandon that to to spend more money elsewhere. And like you mentioned, I mean, Miami Valley South is a humongous hospital now, and is getting bigger every time I go past it, you know.
And it's disingenuous of us to believe that race is not driving this.
Well, certainly one of the fundamental factors. Now, the big thing about healthcare, healthcare is the main cause of the majority of bankruptcies. It is the main cause of home foreclosures. That and unemployment, and the combination of those two. Now, we have 8,000 vacant houses in the city of Dayton. And a lot of those houses are vacant because of the health care cost that people can't afford the health care. Now, they act like they've fixed up the Salem Avenue corridor. All these hospitals are putting money into the neighborhood. Good Sam. I mean, Miami Valley, they bought the fairgrounds with UD. Yes. Right? And so they obviously have some money to throw around.
Sure.
But they get that money by squeezing people. And they squeeze them right out of their house.
Yes.
They squeeze them out of their incomes.
Yes. And it's a moral issue for me because of the fact that if what we're saying or alleging is true, and people are going to die, it is our obligation, it's our responsibility to put a stop to that. In the Bible, it is clear that God centers himself on the right side of justice. And he asks his prophets and he asks us to speak about justice and love and humility. And we have to speak with compassion even when we talk to Good Sam and when we talk to Premier, because they're not in charge ultimately. The God that we serve is in charge. So that's the centerpiece of the entire action that our clergy brethren in our community, that we stand by. Because the fact that children are going to die, when we mention infant mortality, as NJ has said so eloquently, that number is so high, and it's going to get higher. And how do you have a discussion with premier leaders where they want to talk to you about numbers that they have not validated? We haven't seen the books, we haven't verified. I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm not saying that they're misrepresenting. We just don't believe them. How do you say that?
Yeah.
But when we have the discussion, I asked the gentleman point blank, the first question I had, I said, how many people, according to your study, your financial study about the money you're going to lose, how many people did that study indicate to you would die in 2019 if the hospital's not there? How many people would die, children, in 2020?
You asked them that.
Right, and he said 0 to me. So they're not prepared to have an honest conversation with you if they want us to believe that nobody's going to die because the hospital itself closes. The hospital, I was there, and 5 years ago, I suffered a series of mini strokes that left me to the brink of death. And my life was saved at Good Sam, okay? But the hospital, by its very nature, and Dr. NJ knows this, people die in a fully functioning hospital every day. Sure. In intensive care, they just die if the hospital's doing well. So what makes us believe that people will not expire if the hospital goes away? That's the main issue for the people who sit in seats that I sit in, because it's a moral issue, it's a life or death issue, and we have to say enough is enough. We have to galvanize the community. If we cannot galvanize the community, then we run the risk of it happening, and happening not only at the end of the year. They keep moving up the closure date. It was the end of the year, then they said October, now they said August, and if we keep going, it'll be June or July.
Oh, they're starting this next couple weeks, they're going to close down the birthing
Yes.
area.
So it's coming upon us to move with
what's
all speed.
crazy is instead of saying, okay, let's find someone else to run a hospital here, obviously it's a huge facility. They want to tear it down as quick as possible.
Because they don't want the competition. They don't want another medical institution to move in to this facility because it's competition for them. A lot of what they have presented is coming across as a facade, because the bottom line is it's about economics, it's about money, and even though they tout being a nonprofit, there's a lot of revenue that goes through their hands. There's the issues of bonds, which to me camouflages real dollars. So what they are presenting to the people, see, in our society, those so-called people who are in power, they count on individuals' mindsets, and that's something that we definitely have to work on, especially after what the pastor has said in quoting scripture. They counting on people's mindsets to say, well, okay, that's how it is. There's nothing we can do about it.
That's right.
No,
Yeah,
we're not going out like that. You know, you're going to know that.
That's right.
People are dismayed, people are discouraged, people are outright angry that you are doing us, you being Premier Health, are doing the people primarily on the west side of Dayton, but there's other areas that are going to be impacted. You got Trotwood, you got Jefferson Township, you got Inglewood, you got even further west, you got New Lebanon, you got Phillipsburg, you got Brookville, you know, you got other individuals that are going to be impacted by this, you know, and we're talking about impacted it by not getting the service in a reputable time frame and individuals dying. Well, it's sad.
There's certainly, you know, people are going to die because of the emergency, not being able to get in for various causes, all kinds of stuff. But the thing is, you have this huge hospital institution in the community, and I think that the big thing is it's close to people. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have thousands and thousands of people live around there, and you know. Can go there. Yes. That's why I went there. I'm sure it's why you guys went there. It's right there.
Right.
And for them, and they've done this consolidation all over the country.
Yes.
These hospitals have joined together. They closed down in a number of communities, in African American communities, hospitals, but they also closed them down in rural areas. Yes. There used to be rural hospitals, and those are disappearing. And so, if you're out in the boondocks, your chances, you know, to get to the emergency room is harder and harder. They make a big deal. You can fly in a helicopter, but they can only fly so.
Well, it's just like I said previously, you know. The mindsets have to change, because the equation that we're up against in this society, that things are done by design, is you have the haves and the have-nots. You know, so it's not about black or white, which they continue to force feed us with, to use that as a separating tool. It's about those individuals that have and those individuals who have not. You know, that's what we got to come to grips with, because they're using that to divide us and deny us even more.
Absolutely. Well, poor people have it harder and harder to get health care, and it's going to be, you know, they go into these emergency rooms, but they're getting really strict about who they take into the emergency rooms, and now the insurers are saying, oh, we won't pay for you, even for the insured people can't get into the emergency room.
Go ahead, doctor.
What I was just going to say is, the other thing too is, even if you're not directly affected by this is a question like we've kind of skirted around too, is that, you know, this affects us all because we're all people and we are all in this together, and we have to, you know, like, once we have to at some point say, no, this is too much, right? Mm-hmm. Like, this is not something we can allow, whether it affects me personally or whether it affects, you know, other people in the community. Even in communities that I'm not necessarily a part of, this is such an important thing, because you know, allowing for, you know, people to take away health care, allowing for, you know, people to not get treatment that they need to get is just letting our brothers and sisters die, or you know, it's not humane. Exactly. As Dr. King said so well, you know, it's the healthcare, I'm going to paraphrase here. Actually, no, I have it. Of all the forms of inequality, injustice in healthcare is the most shocking and inhuman. And I think that this is just something, no matter where you're from, no matter how directly this impacts you, it's so important.
And if you look at the trends across the country, with the passage of the Affordable Care Act, which made seemingly insurance available to millions of those who had never been able to get insurance. Now, we could think then that the cost would go higher. I can get that hospital cost going higher. You got more volume coming in, doctor. You know more about that than I do. But what we've seen in the closures across the country, whether it was Cleveland or whether it was Pittsburgh, whether it was Kansas City, we see these aging hospitals in urban areas, right, that are being designated for closure because of the volume of underprivileged people who now have access to hospital care, and who are going to drive up the costs, if you will, simply by the volume of people being increased. Once they looked at that, then they said, well, okay, we're going to close that down because we're losing money, and so we're going to ramp up on the other side of town, and we're going to have this flight out to the suburbs where we're building up these facilities. As you said, that Miami Valley South facility, that's a huge endeavor that costs millions and millions of dollars. If they don't have the money for Good Sam, where did they have the money to ramp up at Good Sam North? Where does Premier get the money to ramp up a Miami Valley South? That's why the accounting piece is so critical. Not that we don't believe them, okay, but when we get an opportunity to have the books revealed in regards to what the real financial position is, that will give us a better idea, because they're dangling, did I say this right, the $10 million reuse and repurposing carrot in front of you.
Yes.
And our people in our community, if we're not careful, are so hopeless that we will latch on and take this $10 million carrot and think that that's going to save the day for us. And as we've already said, they're going to close the hospital down on a Monday. They're going to tear the building down on a Tuesday. That's their plan. They don't want anybody to be able to use it. And then what comes of that property, and what comes of the neighborhood of that? So what we're asking even then is that with the opening of the books with a full accounting, then maybe, just quite maybe, if we can't stop the hospital, because they have every right to close the hospital. Let's just say that.
That's
okay,
right.
let's get that.
No, they don't.
Well, they have
under
every,
the charter of a nonprofit hospital, they're supposed to put the emphasis on the patients. And that has gone out the window a long time ago.
I get
and
that.
So,
That's right.
I get
and
that.
so
I get that. What they'll argue is that they're still emphasizing the patients. They're just going to do it in another geographic location. Okay, now let's say this: if we can't keep the hospital open, right? And that might be a stretch for us. If we can't keep it open, we still have to have the people galvanized, because we want the buildings to remain so that we can reuse them. So if Good Sam and Premier abandons, which is what it is, if they abandon contracts, if they abandon agreements that they've made, that's the legal piece of that. There are agreements and contracts that will be abandoned. If they do that, then maybe we can have someone come in who could use the facility, right, and save lives there. If we can't do either of the two, why can't we then sit down with the books being open, have a real accounting, see what the real numbers are, and I guarantee you that the number that's in question would far exceed the $10 million carrot that's being dangled there. So we have to be able to broker and leverage the best financial deal possible. And again, that number we all know is far excess of $10 million.
And coupled with that, you've got Premier Health, who owns the property, and they're going to use that as a controlling interest as to who, if anyone, can move into that facility. Okay, so and we get that. Okay, just like we get the fact that as a business, whether they tout themselves as not-for-profit or what have you, they have the right to make a business decision, which is what they're touting. Okay, but there's other parts of the equation, but it will be more understandable if they do open the books, so that we can get on an even keel as far as the truth of the matter or the untruth of the matter.
Now,
I just wanted to add really quick, and on the side of the books, the other thing too is that this really brings clear the problem of having, either for-profit or not-for-profit, but business involvement in healthcare in general. Because what we're talking about is weighing the costs of versus people's lives, right?
Yes,
and
yes,
it is just a scale that can't be balanced.
That's right.
And I think that's something that we have to take into account here.
It's pretty much the way the healthcare system is now.
Yes. Yeah.
It is
Yes.
we, as a country, we're like 37th as far as healthcare.
Yes.
Yet we spend more money.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I want to get, it seems to me, first of all, there's the whole decision-making process. You've had the board of directors of Premier Health probably for a year or better behind closed doors studying closing this hospital. It didn't happen just overnight.
Yes.
So you have that aspect of it.
Yes.
And then they want to tear it down, and they're holding, like you say, the carrot of this $10 million over us. It seems to me that we can demand and pressure them to say we want a 2-year moratorium.
Yes.
On tearing this place down.
Yes.
And you give us 2 years. If you can't come up with the money to open it, or we can't get someone else, then we'll discuss what to do then. But let's take the time to really think about this and not be bushwhacked by their.
That's where the compassion comes in. That's where the galvanization of the community comes in. When we make the compassionate plea to the board of directors of Premier, to all of those parties involved, and we tell them about the infant mortality rate, and we tell them about the people whose lives are going to be lost. And if you are going to shut the hospital down, okay, can we do it in phases? All right, can you do it? Can you keep it open until we can find alternative medical services? Can you allow us that time? Because before you know it, we're at the end, we're in April, we'll be in August, and the hospital will be closed. And there'll be people who won't have anywhere to go, okay? And if they have a place to go, they won't be able to get there. Transportation is going to be key. An ambulance ride from the middle of West Dayton to Good Sam, which could be 1 minute, is now maybe 6 minutes. Even to get to Grandview, or 7 minutes to even get to Miami Valley. That's the difference between life and death.
Yes.
And that's the compassionate plea that we have to make to the board of directors and the leadership of Premier to see if we might be able to turn them around in regards to closing the hospital, and closing the hospital as quickly as they have designed for economic reasons that they say, but our position would be for the compassionate moral reasons of saving a life. I was at the meeting and I asked one question as they talked about money. Let's talk about money. What is the value of one life? Right? And the room got really quiet. What is the value? I mean, you got your numbers and you're going to lose 90 million, you're going to lose $100 million. Okay. In this study that you've done, tell me what is the value, the economic, the financial, fiscal value of one life? And we couldn't get an answer to that. Because it's priceless.
That's right.
The life of an infant child is priceless to me and those people that stand with me. It's priceless.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they may not feel that way on the board of trustees.
They don't.
Well, you're talking about probably several boards that are stakeholders to Premier Health. And these meetings have been going on for quite some time. But they chose not to be inclusive of those entities that make up the community, including the municipal government.
Yes.
Okay? That coupled with the residents in the surrounding area and even the outlying areas is a travesty to not have had the respect, the compassion to include those entities in their decision-making process. that is so, as I said previously, inhumane. Greed.
It was intentional.
Yes.
They
Premeditated.
Yes.
don't want to tip our hand here.
And I think that goes to the timeline that they're doing as well, right? I mean, like, you do this with as little, making sure as few people know about it beforehand, and then you do it as quickly as you can, because
Yes.
that way you can make sure that people don't have time, like you're mentioning, to
Yes.
actually come up with alternative solutions,
Yes.
that we
Yes.
can't as a community,
Yes.
form groups around this. That's I think the whole point. Yeah.
See, I think we can mobilize the community. I don't think we can do it perhaps before they close it, but I think we can demand that they mothball it until, like I say, 2 years, until
That's really optimistic. I mean, I was saying a year. I mean, we can just slow them down. And I've just been praying on ways in which we might be able to slow them down.
the city should have a stake in trying to keep the place open, but whether they're going to bend with the wind here.
As I say, there are other groups too that should have a stakehold in this too. You look at like Wright State University, who runs many residency programs through Good Sam Hospital. Like, they're going to be losing a lot of spaces for training future doctors.
Yes.
You look at the med students that go through. They're like, Wright State University should also be involved in helping us make sure that we can keep these places open. And I don't know, how much that has been taken into account yet.
We were looking at those. We were in a meeting with Premier, and they listed partners and they listed stakeholders. And the city of Dayton is a partner with them, whether it be through the Phoenix Project or the Salem Corridor beautification that they've been doing, and they pumped in some $70 million over the years. I get that. A group called Citywide is also in agreement with Premier in regards to Good Samaritan. They've got a group called Phoenix Next that they say are going to help lead the way as far as reuse and repurposing that. But we got a lot of people who are partners and stakeholders who are also going to be detrimentally impacted. I want to know, and I know Brother Greer has a meeting scheduled with the mayor. We've spoken to the mayor, and she's encouraging us to talk to Premier, which we will do. We're scheduling that. But I'm interested to see where the city and the mayor stand on this particular issue. Which side are they on in that regard? I know they want to do what's best for the city, and they want to do what's best for the constituents of the city. I'm sure about that. But if there's a financial stake, an interest that the city may have, that might convolute their thinking in regards to the interest of society and the life and death of reality. That's a discussion that we're about to have. Where's the county in this? Where are all the possible stakeholders who could be detrimentally impacted? I believe it's time for us to rally those particular entities to see where they stand, to see if we can galvanize them. And if that cry, that unification cry is heard, then that might get us the 2-year moratorium, that 2-year stay that you're talking about. So we're praying on that.
Yes.
So, what you guys have regular meetings of your committee that's working on this?
Yes.
How could people who were interested in working with you, get in touch with you? They can get in touch with us, or we can send them over to you?
Well,
Absolutely.
We've met here recently, and we've established an understanding, if you will, amongst ourselves collectively, that we will now operate from a public sphere standpoint as the Clergy Community Coalition, the CCC. And we're holding weekly meetings at the Zion Baptist Church. You can call the Zion Baptist Church. That number is 937-275-6906.
Repeat that one more time.
The number to the church is 937-275-6906. And that we'll get the messages there. We can give you more information about our meetings. You can get more information about what our goals and objectives are, what our thought processes are as we continue to move forward. What I do want to say is that I want to commend the community activism of my colleague and my friend. He's tireless and wanting what's best for the community, and that's Brother David Greer. I don't know where we would be without him, and I look so forward to working with him as we continue to galvanize the community, because at some point in time, the community is going to realize enough is enough. And,
Well, this is it. This is
people
enough.
are going to have to stand up, no matter what you really believe, no matter what we can't allow for anchor institutions, one by one, whether it be General Motors, whether it be NCR, we can't allow for anchor institutions to up and leave our communities.
Absolutely.
We can't allow that.
Yeah.
It doesn't bode well for us. So we're interested in hearing from people. We're interested from people who we might be able to help. We're interested in people who might need our assistance. We're interested in hearing from people who might need our prophetic voice, because we're committed to speaking on behalf of those who seemingly have no voice.
Absolutely.
And we're committed to that. So call the church, contact us any way that they can. I don't know. I'm not on Facebook. I know Brother Greer might be on Facebook, but if you call the church and you make every effort to find us, I said this way: we're not hard to find.
Right.
Okay,
We're
good.
not hard to find.
Well, it's going to be ongoing, and you need partners. I know the Miami Valley Full Employment Council and the Single Payer Action Network are very much interested in working with you guys and building this. What's the name of the coalition again? You're calling
It's
it
called the Clergy Community Coalition.
CCC.
CCC.
It's sort of like the CCC in the 1930s.
Is that what I don't know about that one.
Oh yeah, that was a conservation corps.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that was a little before my time. A little bit before
Yeah, well,
my
we're-
time.
But I just want to reiterate that there are other entities out in the community who feel as we do. They have not come to the forefront yet, but I've had conversations with them, neighborhood over politics. As the pastor mentioned earlier, the NAACP, who had an initial forum, So, I mean, there are other entities that feel the same way we do, and hopefully this media opportunity will send a message out to individuals and those entities to get in contact with us.
Yes.
Help support this effort.
Yes.
Because it's about doing it together for us all. And thank you again, Mr. Martinez.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming and being on the show. This, it's a anchor institution in the community, as you say.
Sure
and
Sure it is.
I know that tens of thousands of people have been born there, including the great David Greer. Enough is enough, as you say, and the community people out there.
It really is.
This is the kind of thing. It's not going to happen overnight, but this can be this can be changed.
Yes, and I want to reiterate that while I still may have a moment. It's going to take that. It's going to take the community getting excited enough about their own destiny to get engaged. Because if we don't get engaged in this, we'll wake up tomorrow and the hospital will be gone. And all we're going to be filled with is additional frustration and anger, and then and eventually, in any chaotic state, eventually that's going to erupt. Okay, and so we have to be careful, and that's why we're talking to sheriffs and we're talking to law enforcement, because we need the input from everybody. Because once they close the hospital, there are going to be people who are going to be angry, and I'm just telling you that I already know they're going to be angry, and people are really funny when they have displaced anger. Okay, they're going to have anger because they're going to look at their community and they're going to see the pilfering of their community. They're going to see the blight of their community. They're going to see their homes gone. They're going to see their jobs gone. They're going to see the tax bases gone. They're going to see all of the hopelessness, and it's going to be, as NJ said, exacerbated.
Yes.
They're going to see the unemployment rate that you talked about. They're going to see the failure of the public school system.
See the schools closing.
You're going to see all of that. You're going to see all of that is going to come to a head. And we have to be really, really careful, because that frustration, these voices, and And that type of social cry is the voice of those who have been marginalized and those who have been taken advantage of and those who have been oppressed systemically over the years. And we have to galvanize ourselves, and we have to put a stop to that, because the hope says, NJ, we can turn this thing around.
Yes.
We can turn this thing around. I preached it. I won't preach it tonight, but I preached it the other day, and I see a new Dayton. I see a new Dayton emerging from the ashes. I see a new Dayton, a collective Dayton that's not that bound by demographic boundaries. It's not bound by social class. It's not bound by race or gender. It's not bound by that. It is bound by the love of Jesus Christ that comes up and emerges out of the ashes. But it's going to take all of us to do the work. We've already talked about it. We're planning a revitalization plan for the west side of Dayton, because that's how you get to the table.
Right.
Okay. We got to have a plan.
And that has to be inclusive of standing up for our school system. They're already talking about closing numerous schools. Started out with 9, then they decreased it. I don't know what it'll be tomorrow.
Sure, really.
Those are schools
closed
on the west side.
one.
Yes.
And that's just the first one.
Right.
That's not, they with all this going on,
Yes.
Yeah.
they decided, I think, to back off.
Yes.
A lot of people raised their voices when they heard
right.
about it,
Yes,
and
I
that's
was
why
on that
these things
task
slow
force,
down.
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's the economy needs to change at all kinds of different levels. We need to change the whole healthcare. And it actually is a drain on real resources, because so much of it goes to the corporations that are behind all this stuff. And instead of going to the people that are providing the services, they work the nurses so much that they don't have enough of them, and they don't have enough people there. And so it's the inequality that's throughout the whole system.
Yes.
Our group supports national job creation, and we support single-payer health care. If we had those two things, where you create jobs rebuilding the city of Dayton, and put the money, instead of like in a new bomber or a new killing machine, we put the money in our communities, it will make a big difference. But we have a big challenge here, and the people out in the audience, and we really appreciate the work you guys have spearheaded on this, because it can't. This is sort of like a make it or break it, and it isn't going to happen overnight. But we can stop these hospital closings. Have been stopped. They've been put on hold. And they've had. We can get a moratorium on tearing it down. They have to not just come in and be allowed if. And we just celebrated, and you guys came down to Sinclair. We had a great ceremony with the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King. All over the country there was events, and we had a good discussion at Sinclair. But he was leading the nonviolent struggle. There's a whole new nonviolent movement out here. The Poor People's Human Rights Campaign, the Poor People's Moral Campaign that's going to happen.
These kids, they're fighting against guns.
And if I may, let me complete this thought. Our society is earmarking our children to start at a very young age of this travesty of society that we're talking about today. They're earmarking, and they are projecting towards our kids, just as I spoke about the school closings. Okay, that is a start. So that's why we've got to do this all together. And I commend Racial Justice Now for the work that they've done for our children in our schools. We have to do this. This has to be a collaboration, and we have to be cohesive in our efforts to thwart all these injustices that our society is inundating. not just African Americans,
Yes.
but I say African Americans, that's what I am,
Yes.
but all of God's people.
That's right.
We
That's right.
have to join together.
That's right.
Unity has to be.
And NJ said it best, because we came over to Sinclair to celebrate the anniversary of the assassination of the late, great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And what he said was, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so it may seem insignificant to some, it may seem small, it may seem like it does not matter, life goes on, but it stands it has the possibility of destroying the fabric of what we were built on and what we stand on. And what we said even then at Sinclair was his work for civil rights and his work for voting rights acts, and at the end of his life, his work for the Poor People's Campaign. He recognized at the end of his life that it was economic. It was racist. He knew that, but it was economic because they were helping to foster a class system. As you said, the haves versus the have-nots. And the have-nots lived in a certain area of town. The have-nots did not have A, B, or C. The have-nots, and those were the ones who were just going to be continually oppressed, depressed, repressed, suppressed, and all of those other pressed.
Sure, it's a divide and conquer.
Sure it is.
We just had at the Chinese glass plant, we had a worker killed.
Yes.
Workers are killed on the job more in the United States than anywhere else.
Yes.
And it's because they're under tremendous amount of pressure.
Yes.
They're speed up.
Yes.
I don't know what the situation. I'm sure they're going to find that this guy made a mistake and got himself killed. But I bet there was all kinds of pressure on him.
Sure it was.
Where they were trying to speed up, make you do things too fast.
That's right.
And he was probably overworked, and that happens all the time on jobs. We have the highest, and it's directly related to health, because that tension in the workplace carries over to the whole life.
Absolutely.
That's why the OSHA standards are so. I spoke out there at the plant in question, and we were trying to get a union out there, because whatever you think about unions or not, as far as collective bargaining or giving people leverage, employees leverage, they also bring process there.
Right.
And OSHA is there. OSHA is there to protect. Now, if you're running an operation where you don't have accountability through a union rep, then some of these OSHA violations occur on a regular basis. They were having all kinds of serious problems out there. All kinds of serious problems. And OSHA has to come in after the fact, after the death, when OSHA should have been really on the scene a lot prior. But those things happen across our community.
And it's a huge circle too. You say, that overwork affects your health, and then your health, because many of these people don't have health coverage, they don't have the ability to go to places, hospitals are being closed down, and that comes back to their ability to work too, because then you're too sick to be able to work and to be able to feed your family, and because all of this relies on that, it's a huge cycle that just keeps people pushed down in poverty and hurting. So,
Absolutely.
But the whole end up is, white workers and black workers, the whole community has to realize we're all in this boat together. And they pit people against each other. And what we have to really, all this will affect you. Everybody is hurt by the healthcare crisis. Even the middle classes are being taken to the cleaners, and they're sort of getting the hang of it. So we really appreciate it, David, Reverend Carter.
Bless you.
NJ. We're the Citizen Impact with the Miami Valley Full Employment Council. We're really looking forward to working with the clergy and community coalition here in Dayton to save Good Sam.
We're looking forward to it too.
The next couple months will be crucial, and there'll be, I'm sure, some demonstrations. You let us know, and we will let people know. But we need to turn out the community here and say, look,
absolutely,
they're not. They can try to run over things, but they're not going to just run over the Dayton community.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. You hold up a sign and say, we're tired and we're not going to take it anymore.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to do. Amen. So thank you for having me.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you.
So thanks, and we'll be covering this some more. So, guys. Yeah.
That's a good job, though.
Very good.